10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 90. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 90 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on our countdown to 100 episodes. Can't believe it's coming up on 100, and I just wanted to thank everybody out there for tuning in each and every week and keeping this show going through 90 Friday episodes. It's just so wonderful to get to share this stuff with you every week, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in and checking it out. All right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to check out a Joshua Redman solo, one of my favorite tenor players ever. And we're going to look at his solo over his tune Blues on Sunday. And just a reminder before we get going that you can get the PDFs to all of these episodes on Patreon by donating a small amount every month, only $3. You get access to every single PDF that we put out with every episode every single week. And if you want to join up and help the podcast out, help us stay in business, you can head over to patreon.com/10-minute jazz lesson, or you can go to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and click on one of the Patreon links, and it'll bring you right over there. Very self-explanatory, very, very easy to do, and much appreciated. Join the over 50 people that are doing that for us already. Thank you so much to all those folks that are giving up their hard-earned cash every month to keep the show going. So just want to give a shout out to everybody that is supporting us. All right, so let's jump into today's episode. So Joshua Redman is one of my favorite tenor players, and I just think about him as kind of the total package when it comes to a musician, a jazz musician. He's so flexible. He has a firm understanding of all styles, and you can't really classify Joshua Redman into one camp or another. His earlier records were a little bit more traditional. He did a lot of blues playing, a lot of bebop playing, and his later stuff is just a lot more, I think, you can hear his growth throughout the decades over his long and amazing career. And he has just done a record with the Bad Plus. He has a duo record out with Brad Mehldau right now. I mean, it's just, he covers the spectrum, and he's a musician that everybody just really knows and respects. And he has really stood the test of time to his career. He's been around for a long time, very long time. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at one chorus of his solo on his tune Blues on Sunday, and it's going to be the very, very last chorus of this solo. Now, I would love to actually play the recording for you, but technically I can't do that, and I don't want to risk the podcast getting into trouble by actually playing this chorus for you off of the recording. So what you're going to hear is me poorly attempting to replicate Joshua Redman, but just to get it in your ears a little bit. But I highly suggest going to the original recording because, I don't hold a candle to Josh Redman, obviously. So you'll really get the full effect if you listen to him play it. But the reason why I'm presenting this chorus of solo to you is because Joshua Redman does one of the things that I feel like the real true master musicians do when they play over a blues, is that they really manage to connect the more old school blues kind of playing, utilizing a lot of blues scale and pentatonics and laying way, way, way back on the beat, all things that you would think of typically as traditional kind of down-home blues playing. And they combine it with these interjections of pure bebop. And kind of the difference between those two, the stark contrast between those two styles of playing, makes it so compelling because you're hearing all this crazy chromaticism, but it's kind of shrouded in a lot of really traditional blues playing. And I feel like Joshua Redman is one of the masters of doing this. Now, the entire solo of his on Blues on Sunday really demonstrates this. But I chose to go with the last chorus because it just kind of smacks you in the face with exactly what I'm talking about. So grab your PDF, have it in front of you, and again, I'm going to do my poor imitation of Joshua Redman, and I'm going to actually play the chorus for you so that you can just get it in your ears, hear it. Of course, go back, listen to Joshua Redman play it, like I said. But here's what it sounds like. And check out what happens in bars 3 and 4. That's really what we're going to be looking at. But then we're going to get into the nitty gritty and kind of break the whole thing down. But here's the entire 12 bars. So what a great chorus, so swinging. Did you hear what I was talking about? So he starts by playing these 2 bars of just pure blues stuff. So let's listen to the first 2 bars and hear what he's doing. So that's about as bluesy as it gets. You know, he's really playing off of that minor third / flat 7 over the 4 chord. But then immediately in bar 3, we hear this 2-measure double time bebop line. I'm going to slow it down a little bit for you so that you can actually hear it. But this is where he interjects with all of his amazing bebop playing, and it's just so effective after the 2 measures that you just heard. Here's bars 3 and 4. So then he kind of stays in bebop mode, but doesn't play the double time. I think the next 2 bars to the next 4 bars are kind of still in that bebop land. But it's very, very interesting because if you take a look at the end of measure 8, you can really hear him transition back into the blues playing. So I'm going to play bars 6, 7, 8, and 9 for you. And what you'll hear is that it's a lot of bebop stuff in bars 6 and 7. And then all of a sudden at the end of measure 8, you can hear it start to go back into a little bit more of a blues feeling. Just genius. So this is some pretty subtle stuff here, but this is really what makes Joshua Redman, as good as he is he's thinking on such a really, really high level. So now we go into the 2-5-1 progression, the turnaround, bars 9, 10, 11, and 12. And this is also very striking because most of us, when we go into a 2-5-1 progression, we start thinking bebop. We start thinking, all right, let me play something that kind of weaves in and out of the changes. But Joshua Redman does the exact opposite of that. And he really blueses it up over the 2-5-1 progression with a motive. So he resists that urge that we all feel so strongly, and I fall prey to it all the time, definitely, to really play a very intricate bebop line every time we get to the 2-5-1 progression. And what we don't realize is that makes us very predictable, right? So Joshua Redman ends up completely defying what most of us do, and he plays this over the last 4 bars. So again, most of us try to stick our hippest line in there, and then after the 2-5-1 is over, we try to play a 1-6-2-5 turnaround, and we're trying to really shove all this stuff into the last 4 bars. And Joshua Redman reminds us that we can kind of just chill out a little bit sometimes, and we don't have to go for that sound every single time we play that turnaround there. So if we put everything that we talked about together, we get this as the entire chorus, just to recap the episode. So it's great to learn from the masters in every way possible. So sometimes we literally take notes and rhythms and concrete stuff from our favorite players' solos, and that's great. But sometimes we need to take a bigger view, right, and look at the way that they shape their solos, the way that their mind is working outside of the note to note thinking, right? Now, of course, you could take the solo, you've got the PDF of it, you could take the solo and you could steal every line that he plays out of there. And in fact, that's probably a really, really good idea. But I also want you to take a look at, an entire chorus and how he structures that and try to learn from a more meta concept. A good improvised solo is a balance between both of those things, mood and the big picture, and the measure to measure, note to note material that you're playing. All right. So I hope you got something out of this. I know I have actually taking a look at this and transcribing a lot of this solo. This is an example of a solo that I actually didn't transcribe all the way through. I just took some of the stuff that I really, really liked, and this was one of the choruses that I really, really enjoyed, so I transcribed it. Send me any questions you might have, any suggestions for future episodes. It's 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. And I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Grab the PDF of this and really start practicing it, ripping it apart, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you on Monday with the Monday Motivation Podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.